Welcome back to Uncovered. Today we are going to talk about all the different types of pole dancers out there and give a bit of an overview of different types of pole dancers that we identify, that we see. And when we say that, we mean more so different styles.
Yeah, it's going to be you probably need to break this one down.
Yeah.
A little bit more. If you think about your studio, you probably have people who are
oh, that's the person that always does this, or that's the person that's always doing this.
She's the bendy one,
yes.
Or he's the splitty one,
yeah.
Or the dancer, or the strong, especially for men, the strong one, the flippy one, yeah.
Exactly. So we wanted to talk about it in general, and you might not, I want to say at the start, you might not feel like you have a specific style, but you might like a style.
Or be interested in learning a style.
Yeah. And also, your studio might have a particular style that they go towards as well. And we always talk about how much we love pole and how pole is for everyone. And I do really believe that because there is so much to it. It's not just it's not just a particular sport, but you can just express yourself in so many ways. So some people call it a sport, some people call it an art.
I know, I've had quite a few conversations recently with people I've met, and I found it really funny because I call it pole dancing these days.
Yeah.
And it's pole fitness, pole fitness. And you might be somebody who identifies with pole fitness rather than pole dancing. Even that has their different things.
I feel like I just call it pole. For me,
me
pole
too.
Just, I don't really resonate so much with pole fitness or pole dance. Pole is just, for me, that's what it is.
And I think people who I know well,
yeah.
It's I'm at pole, or I'm doing such and such pole.
On a pole, got a pole thing on.
Yeah, but when I'm speaking to people I'm just meeting, it's I do pole dancing.
Yeah.
But I think coming back to your point about pole is for everybody, I'm with you there, 100% I agree. Where I think pole is not maybe for everybody is, or not for everybody, but the studio might not be suitable for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you might feel pole isn't for everybody because maybe the studio just doesn't cater in that way. And that's, we'll jump into that in a little bit more detail later. But.
Yes. Movement is for everybody.
Yes.
And that's how I see pole, is I see it as movement. And we have such a wide array of movement within pole world, in itself and styles, that's why I think anyone can do it. And you might not like the dancing side, that's fine, but movement is for everyone and everyone should be moving.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. That might be a new Renee original.
Oh, it's starting to get a bank of originals here.
Yeah, we are 2 episodes down. It's just a day for it. Points everywhere. So yeah, look, pole overall, it is a place we do really well in creating communities, I think. So, it is a place where you can feel like you belong regardless of your style, because there is just pole, you think about pole, we talked about this in the identity episode, it is that little bit underground, it's that little bit sexy and cheeky, so you want to do it because it's a little bit unique.
And like I said before, we always say pole world, because it's we're in our own little world.
Really good
sometimes, because once you're in it and you have been doing it and you meet the people and you understand, there's just this different level of, I see now. So I feel with the general public, I'm going to say, is there's just that lack of understanding of what it is. And like Steph said, it's a community.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's getting there. Definitely in the last 10 years, there's been so much growth in the industry. And now you can actually have a conversation with somebody and they're normally the first thing you get asked is can you do that flag thing? It's
yeah.
No.
I'm yes, I can.
And then the next thing is your core must be so strong.
Oh yeah. I was well,
it depends on the
well, actually, what I get is, you're so strong and you could do that. And I'm it's relative. I'm strong with lifting my own body, but lifting things or pushing things, it's for me, opening jars or anything with that wrist, it's just, I don't have great strength in my wrist anyway. I've had issues with my wrist. But everyone's like, oh, you're a opponent, so you could open that. I'm like, actually, no. Like, I prefer to just deadlift my body over my head than open that jar. So please open the jar for me.
This I can't do. Sort your shit out.
Yeah. So it's really funny how people perceive you as well.
And then, you know, they obviously don't realize that we have all these subsets of pole dancers that exist.
You know what I wish? I wish that I could be like not in the pole world and have not like, I don't wish that, but I wish for just a second. Hold on, I'm trying to explain for a second. And then to think like what I would think if I just saw like an ad on TV or a friend go, oh, like I've tried this thing pole dancing, like it's pretty cool. Because when I first started, like I got dragged with a friend and I hadn't really heard about it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is different. Like never heard of this before. But I wish now I could just see from that lens and see what the image is like, because I'm so in it, you can't see from the inside.
I do remember like Googling when I started and trying to find one, because like living where I lived, it's like there was one I found in there. But
or what I would think of it.
Yeah,
I was
and
not in the pole world.
Yeah, and there was like ones with like pictures of people in sneakers and yeah, it was interesting, but like I judged really hard to start off with because I think I was so scared of making the commitment.
Yeah.
But did it.
Anyway, back on topic. We'll dive right in. Oh, actually, first of all, no, that's fine. We'll dive right in. Sorry, I'm being very indecisive. To explaining a few different styles that we think that you might see around the studio. And we would absolutely love if you guys could message us or comment on our posts if you have any other styles or ideas. We've kind of put it under like a couple different main categories.
Yeah.
So we put it under like tricks focused, dance focused, storytelling focused, and then also like a mix. So it's kind of like the people that I guess I'm going to say like fall between the cracks. It's kind of like a few different things here and there.
I would also say like throwing like the flexi focus into there.
Yeah, I've put that in tricks.
Yeah, I guess
So, because generally, but like I guess contortion and that sort of stuff as well, like dance flexi. Like there's just so many derivatives and off this sort of stuff. So
yeah. It's like, actually a meaty topic.
It is. There's a lot to it, and you don't have to be like you have particular people, especially when you look at like your pole celebrities. It's like, oh, like she is the flexi one. Like that's what she does. She does contortion. She does tricks. They're all flexi. Even her strength moves are flexi. Her dance moves are flexi. Like it's all, and same with the strength ones.
I think too, like I'm going to bring my business lens here. Like it's kind of different to starting a business and identifying who your market is. Like you have to have a niche, right? Like we do talk a lot about being an all-rounder pole dancer, and maybe having a little and being like more generalized is probably a good thing, especially for like injury prevention and everything else. But you know, especially when you start getting to those higher levels, I normally say you get to advance and you start to explore who you are as a pole dancer, and you start to find your style generally in that area, because when you get to advance, it's no longer structured for the most part because there's just so many new things popping up. But yeah, and because pole is generally pretty linear, so you're all learning the same things to this point. But yeah, like that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of business.
Yeah, it does.
You have to niche yourself.
Exactly. And like we were saying earlier, like when we first introduced the episode, is studios can be very focused as well in a particular way, and that might resonate with you and it might help you in your pole journey. It might not, and that's okay. We'll sort of talk about that a little bit later, but we'll just go over like the list that we kind of had. So under tricks focus, we had like the super flexi ones, so you probably have someone in mind. We call them noodles sometimes.
Yeah, they're very noodly. We actually, coming back to that, we were discussing show night options, winter temptations.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like,
so funny.
I'm like, can I come as pasta? Because when I think about winter, I think about comfort food.
And I was like, no, not the sort of winter temptations that I was thinking of.
And then I'm like,
it has to be sexy.
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, we can be like the meatballs, and we have this one instructor who's super noodly. We're like, they can be the noodle.
She can be the spaghetti. The meatballs is spaghetti.
Anyway, side note.
We haven't done that yet. But stay tuned.
That might happen it depends on the theme for this year.
Coming into winter for us guys in Australia. Anyway, so the flexi ones, you might see the dynamic or flippy ones. Also kind of the kamikaze ones kind of fit into this sort of category. And
can we explain what a kamikaze is?
A kamikaze is someone who just throws themselves, no fear whatsoever. Good and bad, absolute instructors like most heart-stopping sort of a student.
The ones you have to yell at, be like, stop doing that!
Yeah, the ones that often, like they're kamikaze, but they often nail it. Because of the lack of fear, they're not hesitating, but like the risk is a little bit higher. Risk of even just running into another student. Like that's
they're not thinking.
Yeah.
They're just kamikazing.
Yeah, and so that they're usually the dynamic and kind of flippy ones because they're not afraid to go for it.
And they probably need that little bit more risk in their tricks to get the challenge.
Yeah, it's like people that jump off cliffs into water. Like, I don't understand what that does. Like, I just am not a fan. Would rather just slowly get in and just enjoy my swimming. Like, do not make me jump off anything.
Meanwhile, she probably is a dynamic flippy.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about our personal stuff after because I think that it is really interesting because I'm not the kamikaze style, but I do love the dynamic stuff. And then you have those strength-based people that just lift into every single thing that they do.
But if you're sort of new at a pole, these are the ones that you're like, they just get all the strength, all the strong moves where you really need a lot of strength, like easily, generally.
And most of the time they do it, like I know, I am thinking of a couple of people in mind, but they've done it from the start. So whether they had a background or even not, whether that's just how they started doing it, they just started pulling themselves into things, whether they were scared and they didn't want to throw themselves, that they lifted into everything. But they're also very amazing to watch as well. And then we have like the dance focus category, which is absolutely huge. So we can't like mention every sort of style, but we have noticed a few main ones coming through. Contemporary style, so like ballerinas or dancers, like
they tend to gravitate towards this.
Yeah, really contemporary, like beautiful movements as well.
You normally see these types of dances in like the open divisions of competitions.
Yeah. And they just have flow. The next one is like the sexy style, so the big heels. It could be like a hard style sexy. It could be a slow, it could be like a Russian style. Like there's just so many styles of sexy out there. Floor-based sort of, and then all these stuff can like cross over. So it can be like heels, sexy, crossed with these crazy dynamic tricks, floor work sort of style. So
as we read through this, you might be finding that you like identify with the style of trick and then you identify with the style of dance.
And then add them together as well. And that's how you find your own unique style. And then like kind of like a slow flow, which could be heels or no heels. It's not quite contemporary, but it's not quite like a super sexy style as well. We see that often. Twerk as well.
Yeah.
We all love to twerk, even if we can't, even if we're not very good
we
at it.
We still all end up in the back of people's videos twerking.
Yeah, it's fun. And then I put in like hip hop or just like other different, they're more sort of more sort of like really particular to moves and
And this might
then you can,
some of you are probably not. Some of you listening, especially, I know when I started, I'm like, oh, I don't dance. Like I'm real bad at it. So some of you are probably like, ugh, no. Like they're the people who that come in and who already have dance backgrounds, those types of things. I was just speaking to a beginner group the other day. I'm like, what other classes have you tried? And one girl's tried all the dance classes we have. I'm like, do you have a dance background? She's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, because beginners normally don't go into dance classes unless they have a dance background.
And if you think you're like, I'm not a dancey person, I don't identify with any of these, maybe just change your mind and think about, well, what do you hate the least out of all of them? Because that was me to start. I'm like, I don't want to do any of the dancing. I don't want to, but if someone gave me the choice between hip hop and contemporary, like I'm none of those, I would choose contemporary because I'm like, hip hop is definitely not my thing. So if you're kind of finding your style, maybe go through a process of elimination rather than, oh, I like this. It's maybe what don't you like? What doesn't feel good for your body? Try different things, and then that's when you can sort of fit in and go, oh, I feel like this, or then you create your own. And then you go, I'm going to take elements of this and that, and then I'm going to make it my own because that's what feels good for me.
And this is where your studio influence can be quite big. Like if you are somebody who attends a pole fitness, and like I say fitness in quotations because it's very heavily, strongly fitness, where it's like tricks and strength only and there's no dance, then you probably haven't even had the experience with the dance elements of it. But if you attend a pole dance studio and they are heavily a dance studio, you might have less experience with some of the trick stuff because you guys are focusing on movement and flow and dance. So,
and there's nothing wrong with that either.
No.
And then we sort of moved on to like, I guess, the storytelling. So these are the people that really take pole and make it the art, because they make it like a show, a performance, whatever they're doing. Even if it's through tricks or through the dance, they're either doing it in a comedic way, they're doing it in some sort of heartfelt way, a dramatic way. You find that there's people that always want to tell a story as well. So that might be your thing, and you might express yourself through that.
And this is where the story divisions are becoming very popular in competitions. And like, as you talked about, I think about pole theatre, because they've got like, what are they, classic, normal, comedy, and another one.
I can't remember.
I wasn't prepared to think about this right now. But I think they do a good job at showing the different elements of these things as well, because and
because how can you judge someone that's doing a comedic performance against someone who's doing like real contemporary, just piece, well, but it doesn't even have to be like I don't do storytelling in a lot of my performances. I'm just move the way I like to move to a song that I enjoy. So for me, it's not like there's no real meaning behind it. For me, I just really love to do that. So it's like, how do you judge that compared to someone who's doing something really funny, or telling a story about something that's like really emotional?
Yeah, that's really challenging. So this is why we're seeing so much more diversity in the pole competition space, and I think this is where the conflict comes with pole going into the Olympics, because it just doesn't quite capture it if we're going to put it on a global stage. Look how many things we just called out here. We're only calling out what we're thinking about.
And we're not done yet.
Exactly. So it's just, pole is
so hard,
so diverse, and I think it's great. And you probably will, as pole continues to grow, I would say we'd probably see studios to niche down a little bit in terms of certain styles, because it's just too overwhelming to try to cater to all of these things.
And you have to have instructors with the experience. Like we used to have twerk at our studio because we had someone who could twerk, but we don't really have we have people that can twerk, but not regularly.
She created an experience as well.
Exactly.
And she just went on maternity leave, and we're patiently waiting for her to come back and twerk the butt some more.
If you're listening.
Yes, nudge, nudge. We might just send her this episode. But it just depends what's availability at the time.
Yeah. And then lastly, I sort of put in mixed. So it's kind of like you might love multiple different things, and that's completely fine. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm a this pole dancer, or I'm a that pole dancer. You could be an all-rounder, and you could be like, well, actually, this time I want to do this, but this time I want to do that. I think Carly Hunter comes to mind for a really diverse person, because she can do sexy, and she can do that real good. She can do funny. If you haven't seen her Carlos YouTube videos and competitions, you have seen. Surely you've seen the Carlos and the granny. Hilarious.
I've seen the granny. Yeah.
And then she can also do super emotional and it's just everything. She does maybe fit more in this sort of storytelling sort of thing, but she'll just dance because it feels good. She'll do this. She does dynamic. She does she's just everything.
And as you talk about this, I keep coming back to the storytelling, and obviously as humans we really connect with story. So if you are a storyteller, you can really incorporate probably so many other things into this part. But what I think is really important to say is, if you are sitting here now and you're like, yeah, look, I'm the super flexy one who loves to do sexy style, and not a storyteller, you don't have to stay like that. Like you can be like, I'm actually going to work really, really hard to do this type of style. We had an instructor on at the moment who's working really, really hard to now or progress and learn on that hard style dance. So that's where she's spending her time and energy. So with anything, like a skill can't just be given to you. Like you have to, if you want to change your style or you're interested in, let's say, slow flow or twerk, you're not going to nail it week one. You need to work at it and you need to commit to
You should see me try and do a different style. It's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. We did a K-pop workshop because one of our instructors does K-pop. It was funny.
It's so good. I love it.
I think it was like really refreshing for some of the other instructors to see Renee try to K-pop.
It was great.
It was
so what would you say your style is, Steph? Over the years, has it changed? Have you...
I would say like I definitely started off as like the strength, kamikaze, tricks focus pole dancer. I'm not a dancer. But now, like after everything I've been through and all the injuries I've had and stuff, like I probably started really focusing more on dance-ish. Like that's probably where I feel that little bit more excitement about pole rather than tricks, because I know I've done all these tricks before, and for me, it just feels like I'm repeating them to get back there, and it's frustrating. So, but like when I think about my strengths pre-injuries, I was a strong pole dancer. Like it was more holding, stronger moves where I was successful. So that's probably more my natural talent.
Yeah,
it's definitely not the flexible.
What did you just say? You can always explore different areas.
I know. Every time I do, I have those goddamn legs. Pins. What do you think you are?
I think I definitely started similar to the strength one, and like I was saying before, it's more so because I was scared. So I was definitely not kamikaze. Scared of everything. So I just lifted into everything and slowly lowered out of everything, which helped me a lot. I did train a lot and go try different stuff, but I would always, because I trained a lot by myself as well, I sort of tried to stay really safe while doing it. I was pretty successful, which was good. I didn't put on a pair of heels for like a year or more probably. Once I did and started doing that, I loved that. So I was like, nah, I freaking love that style. More of like the slow, sexy. I still feel like, I struggle to do dance stuff. Like I sort of established myself in my particular style and I feel comfortable in that. Trying to explore out of that is challenging for me. If I'm trying to do that on my own, I like to go to classes, and some of my friends are really great choreographers and dancers. So I like to sort of join in and try different stuff as well. I had a stint of trying to be real flexy as well. Which is like, it got me to a certain point, but I'm like, I don't really want to be the contortionist. Like, it's just, I don't love stretching that much. I sort of do it to where I kind of need to. And then I want to focus my time elsewhere. So I do that. And so now I'm kind of like, I love the sort of controlled dynamic though. So still not kamikaze, but more like a controlled dynamic. So I know like what I'm doing when I'm doing it, but I do like that sort of stuff as well.
It's really interesting you talking about like, it took me so long to put on a pair of heels. My first studio, we did all our classes in heels. Like,
so funny.
It was like a part of like your welcome email, bring heels. And I'm like, what bloody heels do I bring to this thing? So yeah, I started off in heels and everything I did, all my tricks, everything. So I think like thinking about that and then thinking about your studio, like what does your studio do?
Yes.
Or your classes in heels, or your choreo is really sexy style. Like,
and we were talking about before, it's like your studio might have a niche as well. They don't have to cater to every single style of pole dance. You think of other dance studios, other industries out there, it's like they might specialize in one particular thing. So it's like, should all pole studios try and offer a wide range for people? They're small businesses.
Yeah, and like, if you want to go to a hip hop class, you're probably going to look for a studio that does hip hop really well, right? Like, so yeah, I agree. And I find we've had this discussion a lot when we were looking at the curriculum and like, putting more of an emphasis on choreo to be like, you guys like, because we're thinking all-rounder when we're thinking about our curriculum. We're not necessarily trying to niche, we're trying to generalize, I guess. So you have to do it because it helps with coordination and movement. It's good for you. But that is what we've decided to implement into our studio. But the studio owners at the end of the day have that decision, and their decisions are obviously based on maybe their experience, maybe their skill set, and, you know, as long as they can lay that out there to you as a consumer and be like, this is who we are, this is what we do.
This is what we offer.
This is what we offer. This is right for you if you want X, Y, Z, but this is not right for you if you want X, Y, Z.
And they don't, and you can outgrow them as well, and that's completely fine. You don't need to stay with the same studio.
Yeah, I outgrew my first one.
Yeah.
It was just like getting to a point where the tricks weren't hard enough. I love the community, and that's where I came across to what is now Addictive Pole Fitness, because I needed something different because I wasn't being challenged anymore, and I think that's okay. And that was the first time I went, and it was like, oh, you guys like dancing barefoot?
Yeah.
It was so bizarre to me.
Static and spinning. That's another style we didn't even touch on. Like, you know, static person or spinning. I love all the little reels on Instagram. It's like this or that. Static or spinning, heels, no heels. That's all I can think of right now. But there's a lot of
and even like what you wear too, like
yeah, exactly.
crop singlets,
booty shorts or skorts.
Oh yeah, skorts was
We
need to do a trending episode.
So popular. Yes, we do. We'll put it out there to ask people.
Yeah, what trends they've seen, because we can name so many just in our whole lifetime. So anyway, So like key takeaways.
I think so pretty much
that was your segue.
pretty much is that it's, you know, there's so many different styles out there. It's okay to start with one, move to another one. It's okay to feel like you're a bit of a mix of all of them. It's okay to change them, have your own style, do your own thing. Also, like I just said, if your studio has a style and you want to try something different, go try something different. That's totally fine. So pretty
don't do like just cut you off. We're probably really good at doing that, but go like ask if you can do a drop-in, or go just pay to do a drop-in in that studio, because you'll probably get a feel for what their style is. So you don't have to, your pole journey is yours, and you can, you know, like
there'll probably be a style that hasn't even been created, and you might create it, and then that'll be the next big thing.
Exactly. I seen a reel recently that was like, choose your player, and it was like different types of pole dancers, and like, yeah, exactly, choose your player. It's your journey, it's going to be your fight.
And sometimes Monday you might want to be this pole dancer, and Tuesday you might want to be that pole dancer.
The beautiful thing about pole is you can be you.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us to talk about different types of pole dancers. We will be chucking some things up this week because we want to know what type of pole dancers you are, and if we've missed any that you're like, oh my God, how could you have not included this? Like that one time I did the video bombers on TikTok, and everyone was like, you forgot the twerky butt. I'm like, yeah, fuck, how did I miss that? Anyway, let us know. So come hang out with us at uncovered.pd. And if you are loving Uncovered, because we know you are, because you're at this point of the episode, have you left us a review yet? Yes, please come leave us a review. It helps us massively, and we would love to read them. Otherwise, just send us a message. We also like that. We like the warm and fuzzies. So until next time, see you soon. That's good. That was a 25-minute.